Call the meeting to order. Jackson, could you do roll call, please?
Chair Kelly,
Here.
Vice Chair Herman,
Here.
Board Member Rubble,
Here.
Board Member Faya.
Here.
Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Great. Could I get a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting?
So moved.
And I can't.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Let's go. Next item is the approval of the minutes from last meetings. Were there any questions or clarifications that needed to be added to the minutes from
I
last
actually
meeting?
have a clarification in regards to Edgington. I missed the alignment, but I don't know where you are with that and where it's going to end
Hey,
up.
Steve, can you hear me at all? Yes.
I wanted to be clear that I still think it's in the best interest of the city if there's some way to have that end up in the road footprint. So, and that wasn't really said. So if it helps you to have somebody say that, I'm saying that.
That could help.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Good. So let's add that clarification, Jackson, to it.
I'll make a motion to approve with Lori's amendment.
And I second that. Approved. And I've talked to people in that neighborhood too, to say the same thing.
Have you?
Like, what the hell are you doing?
Any luck?
They're like, well, we don't even know what's going on. Look, we're going to cut down all these trees. So, cool. Any visitor communications?
We do not have any.
Surprised. With that being said, let's step to our board business, which is the transportation system development charge update. So who's going to lead on that?
I will kick it off here and get started, and Steve and Joe will take us through the PowerPoint and any questions that you have. So the goal for today is for you to hear about the project that we've been working on, take a look at the findings, be able to answer questions, and provide staff input on what you think before we take it to council.
Okay.
And incorporate where needed. Last time we updated the transportation STCs was in 2019. It's a council goal this year to update those, try to do them every 5 to 6 years. And it's critical that, we've gotten a few big projects done. So to take those off the list and then go back to our project list and our TSP, our transportation plan, and move some of those high priority projects onto the list that were not there before, and medium priority projects up as well. So you're basically seeing pretty much a brand new list coming out of the TSP. This update will last us, taking a rough guess, 2 to 5 years. When we go through the UGB expansion, we'll be doing area planning. That will fall into a TSP update, and then we'll be revising these with the new projects that are coming out of that new portion of the city that will be coming in. So with that, I will kick it over to Steve Donovan. He is our SDC guru. He's helped us out quite a bit with water, wastewater, parks. He's done transportation for us before, and Joe Bestman, our traffic engineer, and Eric Huffman, our city engineer, are here as well to provide input. So, Steve, we'll kick it over to you.
Thank you, Paul. Jackson, do you have that PowerPoint presentation on your machine so I don't have to share my screen? Can you just run it up?
One moment, please.
If not, I've got it here. I can share my screen if it's a problem for you.
That would be most helpful. It'll take me a little bit to get that pulled up.
Okay, can you give me authority to share my screen?
You should already have it.
Great. Okay, good to know. Everybody see this PowerPoint on your screens?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, good news. Let me see here. I'll run a Okay, so tonight we're going to have a very short and succinct presentation for you. We've got Joe Bessman and Eric Huffman here if we've got technical questions. So I'll just leap into it. The first thing is going to be a quick thumbnail of the history. I think Paul touched on it.
Just so you know, we're seeing the presenter's view, not the presentation view.
Oh, okay. I'll just close out of it. Is that better? Can you see that?
Well, sure.
Okay. Yeah. So here we go. Like, give it the quick thumbnail here. History and background of the transportation SDCs. We'll talk about policy issues. I think this is probably something you folks are already pretty clear on. We're going to review then the capital improvement plan, a quick look, and then we'll talk about some of the specifics of the analysis for you, and then comps. We'll talk about what current transportation STCs are relative to other communities in Central Oregon. So first, we're going to read from left to right on this, and the current STC methodology for transportation was adopted in 2019, and all of the players that you've got on the screen today were involved in that, so we've got continuity of how that was done. If you look back in 2019, the resident population was about 2,600, and the capital improvement plan, the 20-year plan back then was $16.4 million. So just keep that in mind. Now, moving forward to 2026, estimated population is about 3,900, so a fair jump, a fair increase. And the capital improvement plan that Paul had just touched on that we're going forward with now is 31.5 million. So same song, different verse, population growth and project cost growth. And now the last box on the right is how exactly do we make transportation STC methodologies? And it's driven by what's called the improvements approach. We look at every project in the capital plan and we make judgments of how much of that project cost is to serve growth and how much of that is to serve existing populations or existing trips. And our demand variable in transportation is something called the PM peak hour vehicle trip. And we'll talk about that in just a second and what that really means. So looking about SDCs 101, is everybody on the board familiar with SDCs? Do we need to go into the detail?
Yeah. Dane, are you familiar with that? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, then I will just give a quick review of this. Who pays SDCs is new development pays. Existing taxpayers and existing ratepayers don't pay them. Use of SDCs are very restricted. They can only be used for capacity expanding capital improvements. There's very strict rules on accounting for them and so on. And then the policy issues that the council always struggles with is SDCs have an impact on how and when development occurs, and the council has to strike a balance. The statute says there's a maximum you can charge, but it doesn't say you must charge that maximum. So this is the struggle that councils have all over the state in terms of if you make your fees too high, you might be impeding the ability of growth to occur. Conversely, if growth doesn't pay for growth, then somebody else, like taxpayers and ratepayers, has to pay to subsidize growth. So that's the balance that we have to strike. Now here is, remember that $31.5 million we talked about on the first slide, which is the new 20-year capital improvement plan. Based on each project in those plans and the costs associated, we've determined that roughly 16 million of that 31 million, a little more than half, is attributable to growth and would be SDC eligible. About 14 million of it will have to come from other sources like ODOT, developers, the county, and other grant type situations. And then the third and smallest slice would come from the general fund and gas tax. So as you can see, a preponderance of this capital improvement plan 50% or more is to serve growth. And that kind of makes sense when you think about it, when you look at the projects. So this is now, I talked about what a PM peak hour vehicle trip is. And this is very important for Joe Bessman and Eric Huffman because this is the planning standard that these guys use when they're evaluating how to build projects. They need to know what the demand is going to be so they can build the facilities, the roads and the roundabouts and so on. So a 1 p.m. peak hour vehicle trip represents the 60-minute time period of highest vehicle trip generation during the weekday afternoon period between 4 and 6 p.m. I know that sounds kind of wordy, but it's very, very important. And these numbers are published in what's called the ITE manuals, the Institute of Transportation Engineers. Over time, they study land uses and how trips are generated from those land uses. So that's where we get these numbers from. And if you can see here on our forecast, we are estimating today that within the city of Sisters, we are generating 3,801 PM peak hour vehicle trips today. Based on our growth forecast, we think that's going to grow out to 6,038 trips by 2040. So that delta, the growth component, is 2,237 PM peak hour vehicle trips. Think of that as being the denominator in a rate calculation. The numerator would be this blue $16 million of SDC eligible costs. The denominator would be the 2237, the growth in PM peak hour vehicle trips. So this is, once again, we've done the improvements calculation, and this is the rate calculation that we use. The numerator here is the dollars. The denominator is the units of demand, the PM peak hour vehicle trips. It's just really that simple in terms of the math. So what we're coming up to in terms of the actual SDC for a single family home.
Good question.
You bet.
Thank you. And I just wondering, so I was looking at the numbers and the growth in the PMPHs is about 4% annually over that 15 years. I looked at, there's a chart in here somewhere that is older. It's 2015 PSU growth projections for Sisters, which projects about a 3% annual growth. I also know PSU has been adjusting their numbers like crazy.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And so I'm just wondering how those relate, and does this estimate an increase in, because this is really important. These numbers are really important, and so
Absolutely.
how does this relate to latest projections by PSU of growth, and how accurate have PSU's projections been versus actual Sisters growth?
Joe Bessman, you want to take a stab?
Yeah, I'll do my best. So what we're certainly seeing is higher projected growth in the city of Sisters now than we saw in 2015, and it's been a little bit of a roller coaster, as you mentioned. Back in 2007, they were projecting a 4 or 5% growth. Then they came back in 2012 or 2013 and said, it's not going to be that high. So we've seen these fluctuations, and right now what we're seeing is a very high growth. Now, the numbers are important. Are the numbers accurate? It's hard to say. It's really just a best estimate at this point in time, and I wouldn't be too concerned with how precise they are. I mean, we may find by 2040 there's more or less trips. It's something we can't put counters out. We can't count. It's our best calibrated estimation is how I would put it.
And if I can step in, the PSU forecast, and it's a great point you bring out, but the PSU forecast is population.
Yeah.
And we're doing PM peak hour vehicle trips. So we're adding even more mud, more turbidity to the pool here. But we're trying to interpolate, is there a direct relationship between growth in population and growth in trips? Well, of course, intuitively, there is a relationship. But there are other things that drive trip generation other than just population. So to say just to back on what Joe was saying, this is our best guess, and it is consistent with your last transportation system plan update that we used in 2019.
My question on that also is capacity. If we have 2,200 more trips in town, can the town handle 2,200 more trips?
No, and that's why we have the projects.
Yeah.
That's exactly correct. That's Joe's my straight man there. That is the whole point for this planning exercise. If we put these trips onto your existing infrastructure, we would effectively have failure at intersections in most sections of town at the PM peak that we've studied. And the reason we use the PM peak, because it is most representative of the highest demand within the capacity of your system. And we build facilities to meet peak demand. We don't build facilities for average demand. Does that help?
So so the peak demand, then you're factoring in the seasonality of the trips here as well, just by going by like kind of the worst case peak. Is that correct?
That's a fair statement. Yeah, that's a fair statement. Joe?
It's a mostly fair statement. We try and use the seasonal peak for the ODOT facilities, and we try and conduct our traffic counts at a time when volumes are highest. What of course we find is by our schools and stuff, those peaks aren't summertime. It's school related. So there's a mixing and matching, but yeah, I would say it's a typical summer peak on the highway. It's a typical school peak on the city system.
Okay, thank you. So now let's take a look at what exactly we're recommending at this point. Right now, the Sisters charges $2,552 for a new single-family home for the transportation SDC. Based on this updated demand forecast and the updated costs of the projects, we're going to recommend to the council that this be increased to $6,785 for a single-family home. That is lower than Bend and Redmond, but it's kind of in the neck of the woods of Prineville and maybe Lapine. And got to remember, all of these other communities are also reviewing their SDCs as we're reviewing ours. So it is sort of a moving ball here. And then just to give you a next slide here is transportation is not the only SDC we charge. We charge a whole suite of them for water, sewer, storms, streets, and parks. With this increase, we would be raising the single-family home SDC from $21,873 to $26,106. Once again, less than Bend and Redmond, kind of in the neck of the woods with Prineville. And then finally, we're going to talk about schedule and what we've done here. Under Oregon's SDC law, there are some very discrete timelines you have to follow for disclosure and for implementation. And just to give you the calendar that we followed so far, back in February, we made written notice to interested parties, particularly COBA, Central Oregon Builders Association, to notify them of our intent to modify the SDCs and the methodology. That's the 90-day clock. And then on April 3rd, the methodology was written up and posted on the city's website, available for public inspection. Today, we're presenting to you, as you can see, April 14th. We will be presenting the same information at a work session to the council on April 22nd. And then on June 10th, we'll be asking the council to consider a resolution to adopt the SDCs for transportation, as I say, once again, by resolution, for implementation on July 1st. So that kind of brings us to the end of the presentation. Anything you folks want to visit with us on?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad you're here. One of the things I want to bring up to council is that we just did do a SDC in 2024. That was a pretty substantial increase back then. And I think if we look at the two numbers together, of the last SDC, and this one, I think it's $15,000.
That
So
was water and sewer?
It's water and sewer. So one of the things is, if I'm a builder and I'm building, and this is, I know that you guys probably hear this all the time. If I'm a builder and it's gone up $15,000 in the last 2 years, there's going to be some pushback, and then there's the constant conversation that goes on affordability, and this is sort of hard on the affordability factor. I get it, developers have to pay it. It's just I think the backlash that we might get from the back-to-back ones might be a little bit tough for the 3 builders in town. So that's something that the council has to consider on that.
Oh, there's no question. And the council has to, they do understand this because we've had this conversation many times. Paul has been right on point on this. Is if you choose not to charge the SDCs based on the methodology, you are explicitly saying we choose to subsidize growth through rates or through taxes or through other alternative means. That's a perfectly legitimate policy concern for the council. But if growth gets subsidized, that means ratepayers have to pay it because the costs don't go away. It's really a zero-sum game.
Yeah.
That's the struggle, and you get it, we get it, council gets it.
Pay twice later on.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm wondering a couple of things here. One is there been any presentation to COBA and any response from them at this point?
We sent notice of the change, the 90-day notice, and have not heard a word from them.
And that included all this information?
We included the link to the presentation, yeah.
Oh. I'm surprised. Okay.
We
And
have some other jurisdictions that have recently updated SDCs or are doing it right now. I know Matters is looking at it, Prineville as well, so I think we're in the mix of, multiple things that they're looking at.
Interesting. And then what you showed us was a dollar value for single-family residential. So how is this going to apply to other development and have folks I don't know, the chamber or anything like that been involved?
Well, I can step in on that. What we've done in the report is put a table of all land uses appropriate for the city of Sisters will each have a rate. So when a land use application comes in for development, the appropriate land use code will be applied and a rate will be applied to that. And they're all based on differential numbers of trips, PM peak hour trips. Everybody pays the same unit cost per PM peak hour trip. It's just every land use has a different trip generation rate.
To follow on that, that was one of my questions, is it would be helpful to understand, for a commercial building or a new industrial building, how much would that increase the SDCs? Because especially larger commercial buildings can generate a lot of trips, and I get nervous about someone's looking to site a business here, and they come get their SDC estimate, calc out what that's going to be, and are like, you know what, Prineville sounds good, because we know and we have been the beneficiary in some cases of BASX having a second location here, because we were sort of favorable for that. I was just talking to someone today about businesses relocating from Bend to Prineville because conditions are more favorable. So I think there's regional competitiveness to consider as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really tough one because I do think there's flexibility inherent in those categories for different types of development. You know, how you apply them, choose to apply them to different types of businesses. And then a similar question is about, and it kind of goes to council policies and goals. So what are you trying to encourage? And so that goes to like under the exemption section of, if you're encouraging, say, more affordable residential growth, do you exemption or a reduced rate for like ADUs or something like that, or certain percentage of low-income housing or those types of things? I don't know if that's going to be part of the council discussion. I just wanted to point it out because this is a pretty straightforward calculation of there's these dollars, it's going to cost this much, and if you implement it over that period of time, you know, and divide it out, that's what the answer is.
So I can give you my own view on this as opposed to 4 other counselors who are not here. My inclination would be to go with the increase as laid out and find other ways to incentivize. I think growth should pay for growth. Now, if, Rachel, you said possibly, you know, maybe one of those categories blows us out and makes us look unattractive. And so if there were an unattractive one, maybe we re-look at that. And I have not read all of the information yet, but I really would not want to put us in a position where we're very healthy financially, but we are not like, woohoo, let's party, you know, financially. And I would not want to disturb where we are. There's so many cities in this state who are struggling, and so I wouldn't want to put us at risk. What we can do is like look at other programs to incentivize affordable housing, or if we really wanted a business here to do a one-time something for them, rather than trying to take it out of our everyday work. That's just kind of how I look at it. Again, I haven't read the whole packet, but finding myself in a seat where we are healthy, I would not want to throw that off.
So I have a related question for our city engineer of looking at because I noticed there's some draft language in here about how to apply this to different development applications. And I would want to make sure that the words in here work for you, because that's where you can end up with a lot of difficult discussions and arguments is with the developer at the permit counter and about how you're applying the SDCs or the credits to the SDCs and those types of things. And it looked like there was a bunch of new language proposed. So I'm hoping you've taken a look at it and it helps you in your job.
Yeah, the what kind of language? What is it saying?
So there was, and I'll have to say I read through this pretty quickly, but there was some. Page 11. Thank you. There you go. Page 11. There's some policy and how this would be applied. So I would hope that you would read that and see if that is easy to apply for the type of development applications you see.
I'll have to read that. I'll do that right now, and then I'll be able to provide you some comments.
One of the questions I have is for the with the urban growth boundary expansion. How is this gonna be any effect into it, or how would this work with that?
Well, I'll take a first stab and then maybe I'll kick it off to Paul. The answer is it will change. It will most substantially change. Once the urban growth boundary expansion goes through the required transportation system plan update, you're going to see a whole new set of players on the board. And I think Paul had pointed that out, that this list that we've got now should go for 2 to 5 years. But it will be superseded by the new TSP as a result of the urban growth boundary expansion. Is that fair, Paul?
Absolutely. I mean, if we can take one project in particular that's depending on when it happens in the UGB annexation process, but it's we know we're going to need some type of arterial from Barclay over to 126. Guess what you got to cross? You got to cross a waterway. You have to purchase land, or developers have to give you land, and that could be a $20 million project in itself. if not more. So what you're seeing today at 6,700, in 5 years, we're done with the annexation, we update the TSP, might be a drop in the bucket in reality. Because we cannot take all those trips and throw them onto Locust.
No.
Into
Right.
here.
No.
It will fail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we can't pull, they're going the back way too.
Yep.
Yeah, it's already getting so much busier.
It is.
Yeah, I'm just kind of trying to want to make sure, thinking through some questions and how people might bring them up to you, like when it goes to council, is being prepared or something, because it's a big jump. And I'm not saying it's very likely necessary. So just being prepared to help justify that amount in one jump. So that's why I'm asking things about the methodology and how it might get applied to things like affordable housing or something like that.
The crazy part is when you look at our previous list from 2019, the projects we took off percentage-wise in those 2019 numbers were only adding about the same amount of project costs. What we're looking at in the 60% increase is what's happened between 2019 and 2026.
Yeah.
It's
I
100%.
I can't tell you the level of cost increase since COVID has just been
Yeah.
breathtaking.
This would be a lot worse if we hadn't completed projects and pulled them off the list, including, the roundabout and,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of what the single home builders are going to be talking about. They're going to say the city's, sticking it to us, and they're not going to be. Then they just, and they're going to go, okay, here's your fees. They send it to the people they're building homes for. So it's a direct pass through on that stuff. So it's just
Or
messy.
they could push it back to the legislature and say, or the governor's office and say, the governor's mandating you find ways to provide housing for cheaper.
Yeah.
I have staff right now who are in conversations, and it's about the cost of stormwater and development. And same type of discussion, like how to make it less expensive. It's like, can't make it stop raining. So, yeah, not surprising. Costs have gone way up.
Yeah, no, these are policy decisions that council's going to have to wrestle with. And they do every time they look at an SDC update, because they never go down. And it really is fundamentally, where is the city at? Are we going to accommodate growth or push it down the road, like you said?
And see, that's the challenge there, because if you get half the people in town don't want any growth at all, so that we don't want to accommodate. We don't want growth. And then the other half wants growth, And how do we make it affordable and get more people in here? So that's a real big balancing act, Sarah. You got to really. It's a tough one, but it's the whole city. The whole city has to decide on that.
And you can only control what you can control, and we can't control people wanting to move here.
No.
They just.
But I think Rachel's comments on how do we handle businesses bringing jobs into town, that's we got to be just cautious of that. I know that we've done stuff before, like at Three Creeks when we did the brewery for those guys. We gave them a tax credit for some of the work that they did out there. So we just have to be conscious of what tools we help manage those things through.
And that's what our economic development manager's for. He's got his toolbox. Council can choose to pay the SDCs, which they've done with affordable housing before.
So we did that.
So the SDC funds are still made whole.
And Paul, can I add a real quick?
To accommodate a benefit like that.
Paul, if I can add a quick comment too. I think in Steve's comparison, we looked at other cities. What we didn't look at is Deschutes County. So if someone were to build a home just outside the city's urban growth boundary, their transportation SDC fee is, I believe, $5,800 per house right now. And so that $5,800 outside the city, and what is it, $2,300 inside the city, even though a lot of these trips are impacting the same infrastructure. So I would say there's also there should be some parity between the county and the city as well. And the second point I'll make is, I do a lot of work reviewing other jurisdictions' SDC fees. And what I can say as a traffic engineer is when you look at a lot of these businesses, they have a lot of trips coming in and out of their driveways. A lot of those trips aren't new on the system. A lot of those trips are passed by, they're diverted. And we've made concessions in our methodology to try and discount those. So a lot of these uses along the highway in the downtown core, for example, aren't going to be overly penalized because they're busy, because we know a lot of those trips are passing through Sisters regardless, and we're capturing some of the revenue. So overall, I would say this is a very fair methodology the way it was developed.
Good point. Thanks, Joe.
Any other questions? Rachel?
I think maybe more some comments, because I think it's really more of the policy questions. So just thinking about, so I guess actually a first question is, I looked at the table of uses that you had put together, and so there's single family detached, single family attached, multifamily low rise, multifamily mid rise, but accessory dwelling units was not called out differently. So I'm curious how that would be classified under this framework.
Well, I can throw my hat in on that. What other jurisdictions do is typically they take a look as the single family residential home as the standard, right? That's like 0.96 trips or something like that. They would look at what that particular land application would be for an ADU and make some judgments against it, because we don't really have good data on ADU trip generation. We just don't have it. So it would be judgments based on the size of the ADU, and things like that. Joe, experience that you've got?
Yeah, as Steve mentioned, there's not an ITE land use for ADUs because you can't survey a grouping of ADUs alone. And whether it's a granny flat or a short-term rental, you really can't control that oftentimes. What I see in most jurisdictions is a trip rate of about 0.26, so about a quarter of a single-family home rate, all the way up to about a 0.4. So, that's more of a policy call than a strict traffic engineering number.
But that's a great catch, because I think of a big promotion for affordable housing is the ADU concept. And I've seen, I'm with Joe, I've seen it in 0.3 to 0.6 trip generation is what I've been seeing in other parts of the state.
Yeah, so something for council to consider is, you're always trying to balance, financial management and promoting workforce housing, promoting economic development, and looking for those opportunities to incentivize through lower SDCs or waiving them for ADUs, also for affordable housing. And I think that goes a long way in showing that you're your goals and policies are being acted upon. Because you can point to, like, yeah, we're trying to encourage more ADUs, we're trying to encourage more affordable housing, and look, it actually costs less money. SDCs are lower for these because of the choices we've made. So it's something that's like a very on-the-ground, visible inaction of the city's values.
And that's something that council is committed to in the past.
Yeah.
I'm not going to commit future councils, but they have subsidized
Yeah.
SCCs for affordable housing. They do not waive, and I think that's smart because you still have the projects, you still have project costs, you still have the growth. You still need those funds in the STCs to pay for that. So they've just taken their tools in their toolbox and paid them
Yeah.
for the affordable housing.
I think what you could add to that discussion, though, is that they just said there's not clear, for instance, for ADUs specifically, there's not clear numbers about what number to apply is the presumptive amount of traffic produced by an ADU, for instance. So if council wanted to encourage that, you could make a choice to pick at the lower end of the dollar value for that. And I think that goes to my question too about then the city engineer knowing, or maybe it's the planning folks, whoever's at the permit counter, knowing how to apply that when they come in the door, and that's clearly stated.
Yeah, and I did make a note to look, I currently don't know how ADUs are treated, so I need to go look, how are they treated today? What's it coming across in this document? Because I think we're talking about this next Wednesday. And I've just spent the last week catching up on things, so I didn't read, apologize for that ahead of time, but I want to see what we're doing today and see, like, what would be the mechanism for adjusting that? 'Cause I don't understand it enough to comment on it. But it, I did put a star by it, which means do something. So, Bill, you mentioned that in total, with this increase and then the water updates, that it would be about $15,000 in total. So
I think
those,
it was, yeah.
so those increases were in the $11,000 range total between water sewer. Is that?
Yeah, pull it up.
And parks.
Oh, and parks. Okay.
Parks is a pretty big one.
Parks was also increased.
So the sewer went, there was a 30% increase in sewer, and then there was a 95% increase in water in that 24. And that, I think, equated to, can't do the math. It was $4,000 per connection that it went up. So it was pretty substantial there, and it was $800 on sewer. Then you combine this on top of it. That's right. That's where so it's
And
eight,
parks.
8 and 7. Yeah. So it was $15,000 over the last 2 years.
Let me take a look at that.
And I'm just saying that's. I mean, as that's like that's
reality.
That's reality, but it just seems it just as. Desi Arnaz would say, Lucy, you got a lot of splaining to do. So that's really what's going to be is how do we explain it how do we sell it?
And I consider myself pretty pragmatic, and unless somebody has other suggestions or there's ways to peel this back, again, I need to look at the calculations, make sure I'm comfortable with all of it. But if at some point I want to put affordable housing aside, okay? But so if at some point it just gets too expensive to build here because trying to increase our infrastructure, it's like, well, we're going to have to reckon with that. I mean, I feel very different about bringing in workforce and affordable housing, but we've got to be able to pay for what we're building. Because if we don't, then what are we? A mess. So that's my general thought, but then I always have like this other brain over here for affordable housing, and how do we do that, and what are all the tools we have in our toolbox to make that happen? Who are our partners? How do they work? You know, what can we do? You know, everybody's different how they approach it, so.
Sure.
But,
And it-
but just as a
Yeah.
middle of the line, that's.
Yeah,
what I-
and the increases isn't like, well, if we're trying to take advantage of anybody. They're all justifiable increases. It's just that how do we explain the increases clearly so people don't get, pitchforks and
Yes.
torches at city halls. We're just trying to eliminate that. But, overall, it affects a very small portion of the population. It's only going to affect the builders of it. And again, that's why I'm surprised that we haven't heard from the Builders Association on that already. I think they should be probably having conversations. And I wonder if Eric Sobel's had any conversations with them as just economic development guy, so.
It's an ebb and flow on the building climate when you see pushback. I've seen it before. SDCs were not raised from 2008 to 2013.
Yeah, that was horrible.
So also you're getting a pulse from the community that their growth tolerance is getting pushed to the limit. So I think there's probably respect to that as well.
Another sort of policy option is considering, phasing this in, knowing that so basically not making that $4,500 jump all at once, splitting it up. That does go along with sort of how the water rates are being adjusted up over the course of years. I think the drawback to that is anticipating that once we know more about the UGB expansion and the costs associated with that, we know there's going to be another step up. So I'm trying to think sort of holistically looking, 5 to 10 years in the future, is this just, like, it's a big jump today, but is it spreading out the pain over the course of time? Because what you don't want to have happen is wait and then be like, yeah, actually it's going to be a $10,000 jump or whatever. That's a lot of money to add. Yeah.
And we expect to hear from COBA, especially at the council level, requesting that. That's typically their response.
Yeah.
Then it's up to council to make that decision.
I will say I did like the policy about indexing transportation SDCs for inflation.
Yeah.
So that I would love to think that we would get out of this inflationary period at some point, but not adjusting for inflation, it gets you into this hole that's really hard to get out of. So I think that's a really smart thing to do, and that's like this small increment so that you're able to keep up and actually do the projects that you have planned to do.
It's amazing. So you saw the 2019 STC was $2,500 and some change. And today, with the inflationary increases since 2019, we're still only at like $2,770. And we adjust every year. And some of those years were pretty, 5-6% adjustments. Yeah. It helps.
Thanks, Rachel.
It definitely helps, for sure.
John Herman, are you still on the line? Do you have any comments for us?
I am, yeah, actually. I have kind of a devil's advocate question. When we look at those Bend and Redmond numbers being so much higher and watching the amount of building that they're able to facilitate, how do you think us raising to just over half of their SDCs is different, because we're sisters, we're not a big city? for these developers and builders. In other words, they can make it happen. Can we? And I very much piggyback on all the comments about affordable housing and finding ways to subsidize those SDCs for those targeted things. But if it's single family houses or, maybe even subsidize some commercial building construction here as needed.
Well, John, I can answer that from my experience across the state. And I deal with builders of all stripes, and all of them tell me that the single biggest driver for their business plans is the cost of land. It's not the cost of development fees. They don't like development fees. They have to pay them. That's a cost of doing business that they pass on in their product price. But to them, it's always the price of land is the key driver for what they want to do.
Joe, any thoughts on, an $11,000 STC and a $6,500 STC in relation? I know it's apples to oranges a little bit, but
It's apples to oranges a lot. And the problem we're seeing in Bend isn't just the $11,000 rate, it's how it's then applied, how pass-by trips aren't factored into a number of different uses. It's the problem for Bend is not only did they increase their fees, but they made it way more expensive for like recreational uses and a lot of, small restaurants, coffee shops, things like that. So as decision makers, as policymakers, you really do have a lot of tools at your disposal to figure out what you want to incentivize and what you don't. And I think Ben didn't make some of the best choices, in my opinion, because they didn't understand what those levers were. So it's hard to compare because it's not just the number.
and they also have a street utility fee.
Yes.
So, which, we're seeing the product of everywhere you drive in Bend. But that's, if you want to lower STCs, that's an option. Hit your residents.
But I will say that because the transportation utility fee is more geared towards operations and maintenance. That is not the capital project piece. So it certainly helps the equation for sure.
No, you're paying it one way or the other.
But it's like, there's costs regardless. It means that, you can see from the tables here, like what's coming out of the general fund or from our gas tax as well, and what proportion of the project is being supported through
Well,
that.
what's really helpful here, that I don't know how Paul managed to make it happen, is that the franchise utility fees are being used for what the pavement management program. That does not happen in a lot of cases, and I think it's brilliant. That's a very appropriate use for those dollars. So that's why folks like Bend had to look at digging deep and then instituting a transportation utility fee. Was not having that capability.
Because that street fund, it does provide project funding, and, above capital funding, above maintenance.
Yep.
The franchise, that's a decision council made years ago, and that could change with the next council. Just never know.
It's a very appropriate use.
Any further questions? Joe, Steve, Eric, thank you very much for joining our meeting today. We really appreciate it. It was very informative. Good luck with council.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
You all are always welcome to come to council meetings if there's something specific you want to speak on, or if, I don't don't ever feel shy on that. You know, I mean, I try to capture like high-level things, and I know you give feedback directly to Paul and Jackson and, you know, others on the team, but if you ever feel like council needs to hear it from you, please, there's, we're personally overjoyed to hear from experts or people who know more than me, because, you know, it's a lot of topics, so happy to get something in there. Thank you.
I think we got some great input to give council.
Yes,
For sure.
absolutely.
Yep, great points.
Really appreciate it.
Nice work, board.
Yep, good system.
Other business.
Jackson, I'll let you start it off, and I'll pull up my project list here.
I'm doing the same.
I guess I can start it off. So West Side Pump Station, we went vertical today. You can drive by. The walls are about half built. Looks great. Hopefully you like the block color and grout color. We went charcoal on charcoal. Pretty safe.
Match woodlands.
Matches woodlands,
Match
yeah.
woodlands, exactly.
Whose house is that? With no windows.
So right now we just, we're kind of finishing up all the submittals. Product is getting shipped, whether it be, you know, the pumping systems, the generator system, the control system, all that stuff is arriving daily. As soon as we get the building dried in, all that work is going to start going on inside. So it's going to be fast and furious for the next 6 weeks.
Cool.
And then we're looking to have that online hopefully by June 1st, right around there, beginning of June. And with that, we have the Rope Street pump station plans almost done. Like 90%, we're doing the final review, and we'll have that out to bid by the end of this month. And that is going to be kind of the tail on the dog. Once we get the west side built, then we can dive in there and rebuild, essentially upgrade the Rope Street pump station. And then our 2 regional pump stations will have updated controls, updated to, you know, all the newest building codes, and all sweet, shiny, brand new flight pumps. So we can't wait for that. Doing that, you know, we're taking half of the flow that's going to Rope Street away from it, which is going to help provide future capacity for that for southeast growth that we'll see. Adams, we're getting a ton of submittals right now on that. You see a bunch of rock samples out there that we've been having drop off and let, you know, staff look at, council look at, before we make the final decision on putting those in the ground. And we're looking to have contractor on site excavating on Monday. So I'll be reaching out to the property owners this week, just giving them the heads up, and then their project manager will be going door to door as well. See, Edgington, we are just about wrapping up design on that, just finalizing our ODOT permit, and then that project will be out to bid. It's crazy. We're going through budget right now and looking at capital projects today with our finance director. I'm glad he's really young and really in shape, because his heart was working overtime when we start dropping $6.7 million and $3.6 million, and he's used to $200,000. So it's like, it's a shock for him. So that's going to be a continual dance with the city manager's office, us, and obviously finance to navigate that. The roundabout landscape, we're finally hitting actually landscaping weather in the spring. We're just waiting for the plants to be ready to go in the ground. So they're expecting 4 to 5 weeks, and then we'll be wrapping that up. So.
I don't know, I've seen that people really like the four-leaf clovers on the popsicle sticks. That's the feedback I'm seeing online.
Seriously?
Working with the landscapers, he's like, is there anything on the mound or can I get on? And I'm like, not yet. At some point, we're gonna, have to do it. The latest, probably most significant project that we have going right now, and it's not dollar-wise, it's I think a level of just care for the community is our road safety audit that we're doing for Cascade. It was great having Lori and Bill part of that process. Came up with a list of projects which I think are great, both.
I still have to do my survey. Apparently Bill, who's the good student, did his.
I'm retired, I've got nothing to do. Oh, an email from the city.
Yeah, so we got near-term projects, long-term projects. Jackson and Carrie sent those out in a form of a survey to get feedback on prioritization of those projects. That will go into the actual audit that will come to you all in May for your input, and then council in June. So I feel like there's a lot of good work that went in those 3 days. I think there's a lot of good things that are going to come out of it, safety-wise.
Good, I think so.
That's all I have. I'll kick it over to Jackson.
So, council approved the contract for Camp Polk Multi-Use Path at their meeting last Wednesday. Just working on finalizing that contract, getting bonds. So, more to come on that project, but should be a pretty straightforward and quick one to knock out for the contractor. North Locust corridor improvements. We're just working on incorporating RRFB specs into the design. Something that's solar powered and can communicate wirelessly to the one on the other side of the road. That way we don't have to trench across a busy road, even more busy as day goes by. We didn't get any responses from the door knocking on Black Butte Avenue regards to the asphalt multi-use path on that south side. Didn't get any responses. Most folks didn't have many concerns.
Box checked.
Yeah, box checked. We are going into a second phase of utility technician interviews. We got a lot of great candidates. It was really hard narrowing those down, but we have 2 preferred candidates. We're going to be meeting with them for a second round just to...
Is that a new position?
No, we're still backfilling a vacant position.
You're still back. Oh, okay. Well, yay for having good candidates. I think it's a better market right now.
It's the best selection we've seen in a very, very long time. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It was happy to see, but also hard to...
Good problems to have.
Yeah.
Good problems to have. I'm sure you've noticed new curb ramps in some parts of downtown. We're keeping an eye on that. We're working with them on
Not messing
communicating.
things up.
What's the completion date on that? I know that's.
End of the calendar year is the official. Yeah.
Talking to the ODOT inspector, they're looking at hopefully having majority of them done by Memorial Day. We'll
That would
see.
be nice.
We'll see.
Yeah.
My fingers are crossed, but yeah, we'll see.
It kills me that they have to put up signs in parking spots downtown on Cascade
And leave them.
and leave them forever.
No, I jumped on them right away, and they're like, well, there might be a car that's there in the morning or at night, when we need them there, and I'm like,
Tell them.
I mean, because and again, I go back to driving into Redmond where I just shake my head on that 2-year project of doing the same thing. It scares me.
Me too.
So far, complaints or comments from the public have been minimal, but we have the appropriate people to direct them to. On the smaller end of the projects, we replaced the shingle shake roof at Village Green's picnic shelter with a nice metal roof. Snow guards are being installed. They're just waiting on those to come in, but that's the last little bit on that project. And we are working on a pathway at Village Green Park, leading from the ADA parking on the south side to the Veterans Memorial in the center gazebo.
Oh.
That one, we're hoping to get that one done before Memorial Day.
Any updates on the bridge, the pedestrian bridge over Whitejuice Creek?
It's ready to go. Engineering and everything is handled by the bridge manufacturer. We are just waiting on the final structural for the abutments, and then that project will be out to bid.
Cool. I'd love to be there when you guys drop that in. That would be fun to watch.
Oh, yeah.
Be pretty cool.
That's a
Yeah,
that's
special
a
field
that's
trip
a that's a
meeting.
geek celebration right there. Okay.
It's gonna get shipped. I was surprised in one piece, so it'll be dropped in.
Nice.
A 20 to 30-second video for Monica starting to put together little videos in the newsletter. That'd be kind of fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good idea.
I'll definitely be there, taking a video.
Yeah, do that.
That'll be our first project with permeable pavement as well. So we haven't used that before.
Nice.
Yep.
So porous asphalt?
Yeah.
In the floodplain, so we were required to do it.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, be really aware of placing it. It takes extra care, and you got to do it pretty quick. So it's something to keep.
Cools very quick.
Yes, and it's like what? It's a totally different. It's a different consistency, and so you got to make sure the batch plant has to completely change over to provide that mix. So making sure they actually do that, and then getting it out and getting it down quick and right. Because the first time I ever tried it, we really messed it up, and then I had to convince people that we should try again. Which was not so, I did get there, but it's really great when you do it right. And if you need like any just extra little assistance, two good places. One is the Oregon Asphalt Institute. John Hickey is really helpful with checking your mix, and then Bend Park and Recs. I bet they'd be happy to give some, but they do a whole bunch of porous asphalt trails, and they've learned a lot. So just it's a great thing when you do it right.
No, that's great. Yeah, Eric and I might bend your ear a little bit more on that.
Okay.
Yep. It's good to know, because I wasn't scared at all, and now I'm kind of scared.
Sorry.
It's gonna be great.
Paul lost his swagger in a 2-minute session at the meeting.
I'm really glad you're doing it.
I got a question just for staff. And I've talked to you about this, Jackson. I get people, because they know I'm on Public Works, they go, empty the garbage cans, clean the bathrooms, blah, 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 stuff like that. How would you like us to handle those suggestions or comments to you? Should we send them?
Bill's getting those.
Yeah. Should we send them to Jackson?
Make me aware.
Make you aware? Okay.
Yes, please.
'Cause it's just, it's like because the person that's telling me is having a heart attack about it. And I'm like, calm down. It's not the end of the world. It's a cup.
They miss bins on occasion, and they only get halfway through town, so they got to come back the next day. But they're on it.
Okay.
They're doing their best.
So I'll just run it through you, because I know that Michael at the bunkhouse, he's a very whiny person, and not saying that disparagingly. He whines about everything, but he's always sends me pictures of overflowing garbage cans.
And they'll be going to their 3-day-a-week pickup sometime in May.
And I think that, as we talked about, just what do we do on weekends when they get filled up? How do we cover it when they can't work on those days? So stay on, okay. That's all I got.
I had a question, knowing that pretty much the whole state of Oregon is already under drought declaration. Is there any water conservation messaging that the city's planning for this summer?
I would say yes. We are actually updating our water management conservation plan right now. What will come out of that, I'm sure, is a lot of new public engagement. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
This could be a year that the city manager might look at implementing, every other day irrigating.
That's
deals.
not in code now.
No.
Oh, that would be a great idea. But it depends what you're trying to achieve, though, but yeah.
Yeah, for a lot of things. Yep, absolutely. So I could see that potentially getting rolled out. It'll be interesting to see the impact
Then you have to enforce
to our
it.
customers, and then you got to enforce them. Fair enough. Yeah.
And
Well, you don't have to. There's all sorts of codes on the books.
that's
All
not
over the place
enforced.
that are
But I really
enforced.
hate codes that you
But-
put on the books and you don't take them seriously.
But I think starting with education, because it is just like this year, the low snowpack, it's so visible. I am hearing in the community people talking about drought, wildfire risk, like, our reservoirs are running dry. Like, I'm just hearing about it a lot more. So I think it's people are more aware than they have been in the past. So I think there's an opportunity.
But are we really going to have water shortages in Sisters?
But do we have to
No.
wait for that, Bill?
Well, it's such a complicated thing.
It
It's
is.
such a complicated thing. It's how the aquifer works, and it will be, and Sisters is here in a location where you're not seeing declines in well levels. But that doesn't mean everybody shouldn't do their part, and it's like finding that balance. Bend is taking the opportunity this year to do an extra ask of the community. And Bend, of course, has much more resources and has a very expansive water conservation program that works for me. But we had a very successful campaign last year where we said we'd really like people to do a little bit more, and we actually give them a number. And it was based on the Water Management Conservation Plan, an analysis of, like, if we implement a bunch of measures over time, how much water can we save over like a 20, 30-year period? And then, what does the math tell you that is like per person? So it was a 17 gallons per person per day reduction. If that's consistently applied, gets you to that long-term goal. We put that out there last year, and actually had people respond to it. I mean, we saw a substantial reduction, and we worked with certain high water users and all that type of stuff too. We're going to do it again this year. We're going to do another campaign of asking, but I think a very specific ask can be helpful. And then, like, well, what is 17 gallons? Well, that's like if you replace this kind of toilet with this one, that gets you that. Or if you replace this kind of irrigation controller with that, it equals that amount of water. All that stuff you could get from Dan Denning at the city of Bend. He'd be happy to hand it over if you decide you want to pursue something like that.
No, that's great. Getting the new gallons per capita per day from Owen, we've given them all the data. I'm really interested to see where we're at because at least on the wastewater ends of things, I mean, this year, we're averaging lower than the past 3 years. So part of that's economical, obviously, but we've also seen our growth go the other way. So very interesting.
We got rid of 3 creeks, that's why.
Yeah, I think the other message that I know Jordan's very interested in sending is we're going to walk the walk. So, with our roundabout irrigation and with pulling out turf at City Hall, pulling out turf on Hood Avenue Islands, That's, I think, a very clear message to the community that we're not just asking, you know, we're participating. So,
Awesome.
but great points. Thank you.
That'll be interesting as you update the WMCP. Will that come into this group?
Yeah, yes, yep.
You just give it a small word.
Nerds.
Nerds strike again. Any other comments? Dave?
Oh, I was curious. So there's the newly painted Welcome to Sisters sign. Who did that?
Kiwanis.
Kiwanis. It looks really nice.
It does.
Great.
It does. It's really good. How does that affect our signage program?
I think that was my question too.
I thought that when I drove by it.
I don't think it does.
Good.
The understanding was that it was always going to be reinstalled at that location.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
It's the
'Cause-
welcome garden, the welcome sign lives there.
Because I saw it as a distraction from that 20-mile-an-hour sign that should be placed exactly across the street from it. So people know it's 20 miles an hour in the corridor.
Not 30, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I said. Well, there's going to be a sign across the street. They shouldn't have a sign there that's going to distract people. So
It's pretty iconic.
it is.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. Sarah, any comments?
As much as you want to track, you know, we're plowing on UGB stuff. We're doing annexation policy, more conversation tomorrow. And I think I mentioned it before, you know, just keep it in mind as you think about all the topics. And like the conversation today I thought was really interesting, thinking about what we're doing now, but knowing that we're going to have to look at it again. But that doesn't mean we don't have to do anything between now and then, because we probably won't be looking at any new development in that area for, I mean, at least 9 months, and maybe longer, but, you know, first of the year was used in a sentence yesterday as a potential, so, and I anticipate there's going to be changes all over our system, but won't know until we get there. I mean, every bit of it is kind of a learning experience. We are looking at how, just as an FYI, because it came up today, how to work with affordable housing in the new expansion area, how to put some requirements in, but also learning about, you know, some alternatives that, there's going to have to be many ways to do certain things. So kind of learning, I know Scott Woodford's been meeting with people. We're meeting with different, you know, affordable housing builders in the area just to learn about how they work and what their ideas are around it. So yeah, not that that's necessarily PWAB stuff, but I hear the interest.
Cool. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah.
With no more questions, meeting is adjourned.
With authority.